everybody. Greetings from rainy Amsterdam. My name is Valdana, and today I want to share some of the thoughts and framework about developing and executing organizational strategy with a specific focus on individuals, but also the team skills and how to identify different capabilities and needs to support them in the best way. Before we deep dive into the topic, let me introduce myself. I'm an architect who fell in love with product design and service design for the last 10 years. And currently I'm a design manager at Booking.com, while I previously led design and managed design teams in various startups and product design agency. I'm very passionate about design community, and that is why even today's talk, at the time, I built the largest design community in my hometown of Sarajevo over the 2 years through Sarajevo Designs project. What I want to share with you is a reflection in terms of generally thinking around if you are managing design team or any team to be specific, and how essentially sometime on a day-to-day basis it can become a struggle to balance, support for the individuals but also support for the team, and while supporting the strategy. On the other hand, what I also observed for craft leaders and lead designers, sometimes you have successfully pitched the project and then you are in the phase where you need to deliver and make that project reality, and you need to deliver it with people. It comes down to understanding what is the best to make sure that the team and that project is successfully delivered. So what works for me, and this is something that I want to share with you, is also kind of setting the continuous practice of design team modeling that actually focuses on career framework as a tool, and to kind of assess both individual and team capabilities that can ensure that you have a better strategic and operational impact. And besides that, if you are a manager or thinking about the management, it can also ensure that you have a full ownership of your areas of control and of your areas operational strategy, that you are aligned much better with the overall goal of the company and operational initiatives. But most importantly, I would say, is to kind of help you to set up a practice to have a sustainable way to support individuals and the team in the company. And for leaders, the benefits of practicing it can result in a strategic and much more proactive approach when it comes down to people, what kind of capabilities you need for a project's success, and even having like clear articulation of needs, either from the people side or the ways of working and expectations. So today we'll cover the key principle of continuous design team modeling as a continuous storytelling. I'll guide you through key elements and the process itself, and we will deep dive essentially into assessment phase of how to identify individuals, but more specifically team and collective needs, and to kind of articulate them into opportunities that you can work on later. So continuous design team or team modeling essentially is something that is you setting up a vision or a story and identifying what the story is going to be while delivering and orchestrating it in a way that is very much rooted in reality, in needs of the company, of the current state of your craft maturity, etc. And when you think about it as a story, it has its three key principles. It is, even though it's kind of continuous effort, it does have a specific time frame and a challenge, which is essentially the context of all of your modeling exercises, meaning that you either understand and think about it in a time constrained way for the next 3 months, 6 months, 1 year, 2 years, anything that is kind of related to strategy. And so it can give you like a specific when, where, and why for your like either specific project or a vision that you wanna deliver successfully. One of the key highlights of the concept is thinking around the team as a hero or like team persona, which we will discover how to kind of articulate and identify later on, that will essentially help you understand what is the current snapshot of individual skills and necessary needs that are adequate for a specific challenge. And as all the story goes, every hero has its superpowers and kryptonites or challenges, and by identifying and assessing these challenges, you actually, frame the point of view or the what in your team story for that specific challenge and a time. So the process of design team modeling is pretty straightforward. It starts with understanding and also aligning with what the expectations are from the team and individuals, and then goes into the reality check and identifying and assessing where your entire team is, while also then as a next step, reflecting and articulating on what are the operational opportunities that you can tap into, and then develop some actions or support team members also to execute the actions. The framework itself has two key elements, and they are divided in essentially two key groups. The first group is generally understanding and aligning on the things that either influence your work or you can influence through your work, and that's the context or the why you are essentially modeling a team. And that's understanding what is the current state of the company, where does it sit in the industry, what is the company strategy, even craft strategy, department strategy, or even like org setup or craft maturity. But on the other hand, and something that we will focus on later, is also like the operational group. And this is essentially, answering who and how the work is being delivered and done. And it can start from, understanding who are your individuals, what are their skills, responsibility, and mission, but also who is your team or that team persona with their skills, responsibilities, and mission. And last but not the least, also like what are their ways of working on the individual level within the team, but also with the outside of the teams. And this is something that you can actually control if you are managing team or if you are leading a project. So using this framework can actually help you understand and assess and have some kind of a checklist that you can use to set yourself and the project and the team for success. So if you're a manager, I do want us to focus and share some of my insights on assessing the individuals and the team. So for a manager, the process of the assessment process and identifying where we are as a team is pretty straightforward. It consists of 3 steps. The first step is setting the structure, and the best way to set the structure is, reflect and rely on any career framework if you have it internally. If you don't have it internally, we will deep dive it a little bit more into what the career framework is. And maybe this could be a good a kickstart for you to start pitching to assemble the career framework within your organization, or you can also reference to some external and open source career frameworks that are there on the internet. And after that, there is a next step of assessing individuals with deep diving into specific skills and their current state against those skills, and then zooming out and assessing the team and detecting the patterns. So the first and the foundational step is setting the structure, and essentially, to me, the most relevant and efficient way is to reference on the career framework as a tool that kind of helps not only you as a manager and leader, but also individuals to identify and align on what are the craft skills, expectations, and progression between specific individuals, but also as a team and organization and outside of the industry, what are the best practices and the expectations. In a nutshell, there are a bunch of very useful resources on different approaches to career framework, especially for design, and even some cool articles. But in a nutshell, all career frameworks, they consist of 3 key dimensions. The first dimension is essentially hard skills and reflecting on the proficiencies, and hard skills articulate expectations for individuals in different roles in terms of what will be the output and what is going to be considered the quality. The other dimension of every career framework is also soft skills and proficiencies around those skills. And as you know, all work, but especially the type of work that all of us do, is something that is not done in the isolation. It's not done in a bubble, and essentially it kind of addresses expectations of how the company, it could embed also the company values, how something will be achieved with others and through others. And when it comes to proficiencies, it also starts from, general awareness for maybe more junior roles, but then, becoming a master and enabling others for more senior roles. And the third dimension of every career framework is essentially progression, but impact and responsibility and complexities. And it paints the picture of the expectations or outlines the expectations of how specific individual or a role is expected to navigate, challenges that are more or less defined, like, task is more defined versus like some systemic problems, or how successful will they be in terms of executing and knowing things with less or more definition. In a nutshell, career framework is really good in outlining and bringing clarity in terms of like what the team and individuals and how the responsibility, complexity, and quality is seen. And it can go from, understanding that specific individual or even a team is more focused and expected to deliver like support and deliver the what, like more junior to core roles, and then scaling to, being able to enable other teams and thinking about more complex problems and the whys. So the key structure that you can use and that I also use for myself is also kind of following through these 3 key dimensions of a career framework. And it usually goes like setting the structure, if, listing out all the, called out hard skills in terms of design. That could be prototyping, interaction design, and then like another section of, soft skills. It could be like communication or, decision making or stakeholder management. Then you are actually ready to start into deep diving into assessing the individuals. So there are 3 essential components of the individual assessment that I do want to call out, and those are, capturing your own observation. It goes without a saying, this is something that you can, capture in your day-to-day relationships, and work with the individual person, but also it can be like collected feedback that you gather from other stakeholders. The other essential component of this individual assessment is also capturing the individual's reflection, which is kind of their own reflection of the expectations of their role, but also like where they stand right now in terms of that. And ideally, design team modeling should be, as much as you can, collaborative efforts. So ideally, you would have some moments like one-on-ones or development or improvement plans where you could calibrate on these observations and discuss them and capture them also there. Before we deep dive into assessing and rating specific skills for the individuals, it is important to clarify definition and rating of all of these skills. So this assessment can be focused on specific career expectations, like critical needs for support, or individual is delivering as expected. But it can also be in relation to a specific project or a team, like ready to stretch for a specific project or something like that. What I also want to call out is that this assessment tool and generally design team modeling tool is something that is internal. It should not be formal, and it should not be the only source of performance 360 and any kind of formal rituals that you have within your organization. It can inform it in a way that you capture the feedback and then you discussed it, but it should never be used as a sole source, nor it is not a source for of official and formal performance cycles. And one thing also to call out is always to capture the context. So while assessing and rating specific skills for individuals, this is a fast way to kind of generate the heat map, which we will talk about later. But try to always capture, the anecdotes and feedback to it, because it will then give you the essence and understanding of how important that specific area is to address or not. So this is like a abstracted example of capturing, assessing individuals. For example, you have a team member who is a John Smith, and then I would usually start with, the deep diving into assessing their expectations. For example, they're a core designer in terms of, prototyping, communication, and then capturing the examples. There are a couple of tips when it comes to assessing individuals, and just think about it. So the career frameworks can be very extensive. They can have a multitude of skills. So my advice would be to start with, one skill at a time. Try to leverage your one-on-ones to discuss per one skill per meeting. But also, if you have them in your company, try to leverage official performance cycles and 360. So there must be, if you have them, you should have at least kickstart point with some of the strengths and maybe development points for your team members, and you can start building then on top of that. And of course, try to do it together on a continuous basis, just to kind of calibrate and empower also your team members to proactively think about their own performance. And this is a depiction of how it could look like if you have a full team where you can also identify like specific, opportunities for specific skills, and you will start gathering and seeing the heat map for the entire team. And now we are in a interesting part, or let's say zoomed out part of the process where it's time to kind of identify what the team persona is that needs to be modeled. And assessing these collective skills and will help you essentially, move from individuals and zoomed in perspective on performance and expectations and skills towards more like this team hero idea of what are their strengths, but also needs to develop. And as you zoom out, you will start to detect specific patterns, or as I call them, heat maps of specific areas that they need to be focused on. There could be a situation if you could have, let's say, 2 core designers, and maybe one is performing as expected, for example, for a storytelling skill, and the other one needs some support, but also that something similar happens for senior designers. You can start, because again, this is why this is not an official performance tool. This is more like a heat mapping and assessment of the team and needs tool. You can either call out specific, state for a specific craft, for example, need some support for all core designers. And in this case, that's why capturing the context and examples is important. In this like a fictional case, maybe you have a team with 3 levels of different designers, but then core designers and senior designers, they are struggling sometimes to, with the visual storytelling, and their narrative is not clear to non-designer audiences, or sometimes they misses to establish a clear structure and focus too much on the why versus on the solutions. And with capturing the context and examples, now you have a more essence to understand on what specific part of the core skills you need to address and communicate. When it comes to team, there are a couple of tips for assessing it. Always, now you are kind of, while you're in the assessment process, you are, let's say, wearing a researcher's hat, and try to think about detecting the patterns, what is happening, across all the skills, all the team, and also try to reflect on the urgency and relevancy of the specific needs and challenges that you have, so you can prioritize and maybe put your focus in something that is more long-term or short-term. Again, always try to capture the context, always try to deep dive into why something is rated in a specific level, and then try to kind of reflect it and share it with the team. This is a good team building exercise, but also good collective reflection exercise that you can do with the team. If you are craft leader on the other side, I did want to call out also process of what happens for a craft leaders. The process is the same, so you do need to start with the structure, usually career framework if you have it, but then the assessment phase for a craft leader, thinking around what kind of is more around what kind of skills specific individuals that you either already work on or will come to your team need to have. It starts with self-reflection and going through the career framework skill and the structure, and reflecting on expectations and what you personally needed, or what do you think is essential for project success. And as a step 3, it is also important to kind of calibrate these expectations, not only with your craft managers, but also with other stakeholders, like product managers, engineers. And this is a powerful tool that actually can help you calibrate expectations overall from design, lead by example, and even increase the maturity of your design organization. Before we wrap up, I did want to share a couple of thoughts around articulating the opportunities. We don't have too much time to deep dive into it, but what I usually do, I have a 4-step structure to easily articulate opportunities when it comes to operational and capability needs. So if you have identified some need that needs to be worked on at team level, I always try to outline what kind of higher level strategy this opportunity supports, and then I would deep dive into what specific skills. In this example that we shared is more like we want to focus on developing a new value proposition or new features, and we need a storytelling skills to be impeccable or on a high level, because we will discuss with a lot of cross-craft stakeholders across different levels. So this is why this essential capability needs to be developed furthermore. And ideally, I would wrap it up with explanation of how we are going to know that we are successful, how we are going to know that we grew. You can reference on some quantitative measure if it makes sense, but you can also add something description like what the success is going to look like. There is a one step in this this articulation phase that we didn't cover, but if you have questions, I would gladly answer to it. There is also, besides just specific skills that individuals in a team can have, additional part of, as we mentioned, of this framework is thinking around the ways of working. And it also starts with the assessment of the ways of working. So maybe you have also identified that some specific written communication or decision-making needs to be evolved along with the storytelling, and you can also call it out in this articulation phase. And something that I want to, share with you as a wrap up from this presentation, but not the last wrap up, is how to essentially start making this as a practice and incorporating some of the concepts from the design team modeling framework in your day-to-day work. Is essentially you can start small, right? Start with what is the most imminent need for your individuals and the teams, and definitely leverage your one-on-ones. Try to structure them maybe around collective, either individual or collective reflection around specific skills and expectations and needs for the team and individuals. And as you start collecting and practicing it on a more regular cadence, you can start expanding, and you will see and start detecting the patterns and start understanding the broader strategy, not only from product and services design, but also from the organizational side. And you will be able to kind of reflect that to the community, but also with your manager and cross-craft partners. And as you become more comfortable with the process and have more data, the entire framework is assessed for all the team members, all the teams. You see the patterns. You will be able to kind of articulate a bit longer term operational vision from your side. I think this is a even larger call out for managers and for craft leaders. This is also like understanding what kind of skills you need in your team to support the projects that you have. And before we wrap up, I do want to share a couple of takeaways. If there's anything to kind of think about from this call, is think about design team or any team modeling. It could also be applicable for product and engineering teams. Think about it as a continuous and storytelling practice. Think about how you can actually continuously, create stories and challenges for your team and how you can help them grow and exceed. Also try to consider or think about reviewing all the elements. We only had a deep dive into the, skills individuals and the team. Maybe try to expanding and, thinking around how you can continuously assess context like strategy, craft, and maturity, but also operations with specific call out to ways of working. And try to do it together with the individuals, with the team, with your partners, cross-craft stakeholders, and always start to, think about impact and significance and relevance for a specific project. There are so many, prioritization frameworks, but it's a good litmus test to think about like how significant or impactful is something to your project or current, time frame and the timeline. And that is all. Thank you very much. If you have any questions, I would love to answer them.
That was really great. Thank you so much. So I have too many questions here to get through, but I'll start with the last one. How frequently should people have one-on-ones?
It really depends. So I can share my personal experience on that. It does not have to be weekly. Again, it depends on your context. So for example, if you are onboarding to the new team, onboarded to the new company, or if you are assembling the new team, or depending on the stage of where your team is, or you have a new team member, then having that weekly cadence is completely okay, because you want to give yourself some time to meet and understand each other. But bi-weekly or even sometimes monthly can work, again, depending on the context and the priorities and how much support need do you need or your team members need. It's up to you. I change it from time to time, again, depending on the context and what I'm doing and working on with the team and with which stage they are.
Great. And here's a nice follow-through question. What is the ratio of management to individuals at Booking?
I'm not sure if I can share that due to confidentiality, but I can share like the general thoughts on
Generally.
capacity as a manager. I think like the healthy teams are like okay from 4 to 8 people. That again, this is my personal perspective. 4 to 8 people is the optimal number of design members. Again, it can depend on the context, and at different stage, maybe you are expanding very fast. So at some point you might have more than 8, or you are still hiring and assembling the new team. So you can have, I don't know, 2 team members. It really depends. But based from my experience, not only from Booking, but also in other companies, I think the optimal number, so you can focus enough on your team and give, enough support for the team, but also the strategy and partners is something between 4 to 8 people.
Fantastic. And what happens when there is a disconnect between management and the individuals on this?
That's why I mentioned the 3 key elements of individual assessment is to kind of sit down and discuss it. It can happen in different setting and different reasons. So I'll try to be, this entire presentation came with an assumption that you have a working relationship and a good communication with the individual, and regular one-on-ones where you can deep dive into these specific things. But again, this is more like an informal way to kind of capture the needs of the individuals and the team from a craft and skill perspective. Depending on the company and the organization, you do have a formal, there are formal 360 check-ins, performance reviews, and other tools and methods where you should kind of calibrate and test those discrepancies. But essentially, deploying the design team modeling is something that you can preventively do to kind of align on the expectations, because since it's not the official part of the performances, you can discuss around the expectation in a more, let's say, relaxed setup and try to align on the expectation in the work. But usually my principles is better to work and prevent things than to kind of wait for things to pile up, and then you have a huge discrepancy between the team members. So if you continuously talk about the expectations and let them, also individuals and the team, have control and pick the topics, maybe this could be a good way to kind of mitigate those potential discrepancies.
Yeah, that's really fantastic. Thank you so much. If you have any templates, it would be great. That was another question. If you could share anything after this, we can send it out to people.
I might have something. If not, I can send later, and then to make it into something that is more digestible for the community.
Yeah, and it's another piece. Someone wanted a blog post on this exact topic. They thought your slides are fantastic. So thank you so much, Vildana. That was just really, really great and really insightful. Lot to unpack. I'll be definitely rewatching again. So thank you very, very much for that.